Marisol de la Cruz, and today we have a very special treat for you. We are heading to the market with Chef David Lapham to make a delicious meal.
Thank you very much for having me,
Of course,
Marisol.
Chef.
And after a very, very long winter, we have some wonderful, wonderful things at the market that I brought in, and we're going to cook some lamb chops today.
Let's do it.
All right. The highlight of the ingredients that I have on the table here are ramps. These are only in season about 2 weeks out of the entire year, and they are part of the allium family. So they're related to garlic, onions, scallions. Two things about them that are really unique is one, you can only get them 2 weeks out of the year, and secondly, you eat the entire plant with the
Okay.
exception of the root. So what we're going to do, we're going to chop these up and make a compound butter, and we're going to put those on the lamb chops, and we're going to enjoy them. So compound butter is very simply butter with any number of ingredients in it. It can be herbs, garlic. You can use, for your Tex-Mex or Mexican dishes, you can use chili peppers. All it means is butter with stuff added to it. So what we're going to do, we're going to take our butter. One of the most important things that your butter is soft. So the trick is to leave your butter out overnight, the night before, so it's just
And that's totally safe. You can
That's
just leave it on the counter.
totally safe. Leave it
Okay.
right in the counter. Then what we're going to do is we're going to take our very clean ramps, and what we're going to do, we're going to do two different things. First, we're just going to give them a very, very rough chop, and you're going to watch and make sure you don't keep your fingers tucked behind there, because you can give yourself a pretty good cut. Then, once you have sort of this pile of chopped up ramps, we're just going to go ahead and go back and forth and give them a very, very, very fine chop, so they're in tiny, tiny bits. And all we're going to do then is just add it to our butter, and that's going to be the start of our compound butter.
So 3 rams for that kind of size butter. 'Cause
About-
I smell them, they're strong.
Yeah, exactly.
Sort
Well,
of-
watch this. I'll show you something interesting. Once I've got these good and chopped, they're going to release this wonderful aroma. And tell me if this doesn't smell like spring to you, because I know that after this winter, we all need a
Longest.
little bit of sunshine.
Please.
So smell that. Doesn't that smell like the garden?
Oh,
Isn't it wonderful?
perfect,
Yeah, well,
yes.
that's what's really, really fun about rams, is they've got this wonderful sort of a primal spring feeling. Okay, so now we've got our chopped ramps. That's more or less where you want to be. And what you're going to do is then just add that to your butter, your very, very soft butter. We're going to take, I'd say a couple good pinches of salt. You can do black or white pepper. I like black pepper. Everyone's going to tell you something different, but black is fine. Take a little bit of lemon juice there to just brighten it up a little bit. So a tiny bit, just a little squeeze.
Okay.
Then what you're going to do is with a spoon or a fork, go ahead and mash that together into what's now becoming. So now that qualifies as a compound butter.
There we have it.
That's
That
a compound
easy.
butter.
Sounds complicated.
It does.
but-
It does. But it's really, really not. Now that you've got your butter made, you're going to take a piece of saran wrap, and what you're going to do is you're going to lay it out on your cutting board.
Right.
Take your newly formed compound butter, and you're just going to spread it out in a little pile onto your saran wrap, just like that. You're then going to wrap the compound butter so it's tight in sort of a little pile. You're then going to take your chef's knife, and with your chef's knife, hold the 2 pieces of saran wrap together, and you're going to make a log.
Oh.
You're just going to make a log, and once you've done that,
So you want it to be firm.
you want it to be,
Okay.
when you serve it, you want it to be firm. So what you're doing is you're making a log of compound butter. You're just going to get in sort of a nice little package there. Now that's going to sit just like that in your refrigerator for 2 hours at the minimum, but really do this overnight so you're just ready
Sounds
to go.
good. That'll be
The
really
other
good.
thing is if you don't use it all on your lamb chops, you can put that on grilled vegetables. You can put it in
Anything, right?
rice. You can put it in pasta. So that's compound butter. That's the first thing we're going to do. Now let's move on to the asparagus.
Okay. Asparagus, never know. What's a good asparagus, please?
Okay,
tell
it's
me.
very, very easy. Well, there are a couple of things to know about asparagus. The first is eat it seasonally. Asparagus is a spring vegetable.
Spring.
So in the middle of December, you go into Whole Foods, you're going to see asparagus. It's just not going to be the best it can be. It's the same thing with any vegetable. Eat it in season. Go to your farmer's market, see what the farmer's selling, and that's going to be the vegetable you want. So it's asparagus season. Now
Yes.
that's easy. That's easy. So here's a simple piece of asparagus. You're looking for just a couple of things. You want it to be pretty heavy. The most important thing is that you want the leaves at the top to be very, very tightly formed.
Okay.
That means it's just it's a good, solid, fresh piece of asparagus. When they get a little bit loose, it's still okay, but what you really, really want is a tight piece of asparagus. And you don't want, I brought a few to show you, that one's flowering a little bit. There's nothing
right.
wrong with it, it's just, it's not as perfect
Stick
as this
to
guy.
those.
Right. So, we're gonna make roasted asparagus today, and there is absolutely nothing to this. And I think that any vegetable tastes better roasted. Whether it's broccoli or onions or eggplant, roasting vegetables is the way to go if you don't like vegetables, which a lot of people don't. So, or a lot of people say they don't, I just don't think they've had them
No, I
roasted.
think you can convince us.
Okay,
I
good.
like
Well,
what's
watch this. Let me
happening.
show you how easy this is. You're going to take your sheet pan,
Okay.
preheat your oven to 400 degrees, take your asparagus, which are now, the other thing is they are just like our friends the ramps, they're very dirty, so you really have to wash these thoroughly, because if you don't, grit gets caught in between the leaves, and nothing wrecks a meal more than biting in
You're
and
a
getting
little
that.
something.
Totally.
We've all been there.
And it doesn't matter how good the food is, because that's going to wreck it.
Right.
Go ahead and take your well-washed asparagus. All you have to do is spread them out on a single layer on your baking sheet. You want to keep it on a single layer because this way every piece will get a chance to roast. Take your salt, give it a nice healthy bit of salt. You know what we'll do today to keep it interesting? Why don't we just use white pepper, and we'll give it white pepper, and then we're going to take extra virgin olive oil. And you may
Okay.
ask, what is extra virgin olive oil?
When does olive oil lose its virginity? Please tell me.
It loses its virginity when heat is added to extract the oil from the olive. Extra virgin olive oils come in all grades. They can go up
I
to.
mean, you go to the store and you see just bottles after. So, do I need to get a fancy one?
No,
Is it...
I think I think there's a lot of smoking mirrors in olive oil. A good $15 bottle of extra virgin olive oil is going to be your perfect cooking companion.
Good to hear.
If you want to spend a little bit more for those deep, rich green olive oils, set it aside and use it for finishing. Finishing things with, if you want to dip bread in it,
Right.
or put it on a plate just as dressing salads. But really, a $15 bottle of extra virgin olive oil is going to be your best friend.
Save the other one to show off.
Shave the other
Got
one to
it.
show off, and then use it very, very sparingly because it's expensive.
course.
So here we've got our asparagus that's been seasoned with salt and pepper. All you're simply going to do is drizzle your extra virgin olive oil over the asparagus.
That was easy.
This is really easy, but that's the great thing about roasted vegetables is there's very, very little preparation. Then you're just going to kind of toss them together with your hands. You can also do this in a bowl, but that's one less thing to wash.
Okay.
Which of course, anything to avoid washing is
I
fine.
like that you're getting in
is
there
good for
now.
me. Yeah, definitely. So those are good to go. Now we're going to pop those in the oven at 400 degrees for 15 minutes. And that's that piece of cake. Let's move on to the lamb chops now. Okay. So we've got here American rib lamb chops. Now, what I've done before cooking these, I've taken these out of the refrigerator for about 20 minutes because you want to bring, anytime you're cooking meat on the stovetop, you want to bring the meat up to room temperature so it cooks more evenly and thoroughly. So those are about room temperature. Once again, we're going to go back, and all we're going to do is we're going to salt and pepper them on both sides. And Marisol, I like to hold my salt up a little higher so you don't get clumps of salt on certain pieces.
It's a good method.
Yeah, it's really, really easy. And then I like to use fresh ground pepper because what a pepper grinder is doing is breaking up the peppercorn at the last minute, so it's releasing all those peppery oils. The pepper sitting in your counter that's been ground for years, it's lost all of its pepper.
That makes sense.
Flavor. So this, we're just gonna go ahead and season both of those. I'm sorry, one side.
Now, when I'm looking, when I'm at the supermarket looking at lamb chops, any direction to go towards? A little bit more fatty?
It's a great question. It's a really good question. And what you want to do, you want to find a butcher. You want to make friends with your neighborhood butcher. You know, it's a lost art form these days, but it is a tradition that is alive and well. And if you can find a good friend, a good neighborly, but you said it. You know, there was a great guy in the Brady Bunch called Sam the Butcher, and you know, that's the kind of a person that anybody should have as a friend, because you know where your meat is coming from. They've done the preparation for it. They've got the they've really got the know-how of how to select this kind of meat. Now, of course, if you don't have a butcher, a reputable supermarket is fine too.
Okay.
So we're ready to go. These have now been seasoned with salt and pepper, and we're going to do something here, Marisol, called searing. Searing is very, very, very easy. What it is cooking over extremely high heat. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our saute pan and we're just going to get that smoking hot. Now what that means is we're going to, you know, let it warm up first.
Before adding any
oil. Then what you're going to do is take a cooking oil. Now grapeseed oil in this case is great. It's simple. It's got a very high smoke point. So that's important with searing because you want it to be able to get to a very, very high temperature.
Would olive oil work if I don't have it in the house?
It's a great question. That is where extra virgin olive oil and even pure olive oil is not so good because it does not have a high smoking point.
Oh.
So the oil will actually break down before you get to where you want to be with the heat. So grapeseed is the best.
Have it in the pantry.
Have it in the pantry. It's a little more expensive, but if you really want a superior result, go with it. So we're going to take about 2 tablespoons here, and we're going to get that oil smoking hot. Now what I mean that literally. It is actually going to be smoking before you add the chops. And don't be afraid of it. You're not going to cause a fire or do anything hazardous. You are literally going to get it smoking. That's going to take probably 10 seconds, and you'll see 2 stages. You'll see some rippling on the oil. And then you will actually see smoke coming off of it. That's the time to add your chops. So that's probably going to be ready in just a second here. And what we're going to do is we're going to take our lamb chops. We're going to wait for that indication.
I see rippling happening.
Okay, so we're almost there.
Time.
Right. Now some people will put it in there, but to really get a sear, you want it to be smoking. You want your pan to be really, really hot because what it's going to do is it's going to cause what's called the Maillard reaction, which is going to create that crust on the meat, that brown crust. That's where all your flavor is. We're going to go right ahead and start cooking our chops. So you're just going to take them, and you're going to put them right into the oil. Now what you're going to do is you don't want to crowd the pan because then you're going to cause everything to steam. So we're going to start with 3.
Great.
And what we're going to do, another very important of this sauteing sear technique, is that you don't touch it.
It's always hard for me. I'm fussy.
Of course, you're not alone. But there's something very instinctual about sort of moving things around,
looking busy.
Right. Yeah. The funny thing is you actually don't want to touch it. You want to let that crust settle untouched. So about 2 minutes, just leave it alone. Right. And so 2 things will happen. The meat will brown, and the meat will release from the pan so it doesn't stick. Otherwise, if you're moving it around, you'll never give it a chance. You'll never let that crust develop.
Okay.
2 to 3 minutes per side, and then when we turn it over, we're going to lower the heat and just finish the cooking. That's for medium rare.
Okay. And if you want it tougher, 5 minutes.
Here's what I'm going to show you. That go ahead and do is take your hand, take your thumb, and put it over your finger.
Over my finger.
Okay. Just like over your forefinger. Okay, so take your other finger and without any pressure here, push down on that spot. That's rare.
You're more rare than me.
Oh, go on. Now, add a little bit of pressure. Push down. See how that's a little tougher?
And it's safe to tap it and
That's
check
exactly
in?
what you're doing is you're doing this test to the meat. Now go ahead and tense up as hard as you can. Push down. That's well done.
Okay.
Now, a lot of people would say that that's a tragedy because then your meat has no pink in it. Now, that is a personal preference.
Each their own.
That is a personal preference. So we're going to go ahead and turn these chops, and they should be nice and brown at this point.
Oh, and I'm starting to get the aroma.
Yeah, and that all, of course, comes from the browning. So once you've got that, we're going to let that also cook on high heat. We're going to lower the heat, and those are going to only cook for about another 3 minutes.
And how much should I lower? Medium?
To about
or-
medium. So right now we're at high heat, so
Okay.
we're just going to go ahead and lower to medium heat just like
And I
that.
don't need to cover it.
Not these because they're so, they're small enough. Now, a bigger roast, of course, you would put it in the oven. A bigger New York strip steak, you'd probably put it in the oven. But these are small enough that these will just finish right there in the oven.
Okay.
Just going to take those right off the grill,
Okay.
right out of the pan. Is letting the meat rest. This is a very, very, very.
I just want to dig in.
Of course, and that is
I'll be back.
you're not alone. You want to let meat rest because what happens is when you cook it, all of the juices in the meat start to spread out because of the cooking process. When you let meat rest and it starts to cool a little bit, the juices go back into the meat, resulting in a juicier piece of meat when you cut into it.
All right.
So right now,
So stuff's happening, even though I can't see it.
it certainly is right now. Right now, if you were to cut into that lamb chop, the juices would escape and you'd lose them. So this is now just a very important part to let it all rest. We're going to give it probably, I don't know, 5 minutes.
Okay,
and
that's
then,
not so bad.
and then you can wait. Are you
I
sure?
think I can
and then
handle
we
it.
can add the compound butter and serve it with our roasted asparagus.
Yummy.
So we'll be right back when that happens.
We are back. It has been 5 minutes. I am chomping at the bit. What can we do?
Okay, we're ready to plate. So what we're gonna do, this is how we'll make it look like a fancy restaurant here with one of these square plates. I think these are gonna fall out of favor at some point. So here's what we're gonna do. Why don't we now take our asparagus out of the oven. Remember, we've had that
of
cooking
course.
for about 20 minutes at 400 degrees. And the nice thing about these asparagus is they just, it's salt, pepper, and olive oil. That's the only
They almost
thing.
take care of themselves.
They
right?
sure do, and they take on a wonderfully caramelized flavor. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and put, I don't know, I'd say, why don't we put, what do you think, 3, 4, why don't we put 5 on there
yeah.
in case anyone's really hungry back there.
Someone.
Maybe a few more, why not? You can do, and I always think a white plate's nice because you can kind of see the food.
Oh, and the color.
So then what we'll do, then we're going to take our lamb chops, and then here comes the pièce de résistance. We'll take our lamb chops, and why don't we just go ahead and put them like this. Now what we're going to do, Marisol, if you remember, last night we made our compound
Of
butter,
course.
which is now
There it is.
hard as a log. So what you're going to do is you're going to unwrap that, and that was really, this is important because you do want to do, but that can stay in the fridge now for those other things we
And
discussed.
should I keep it wrapped or can I?
Keep
in
it
the
wrapped,
fridge?
and
Okay.
you can just rewrap it. So now you've got the perfect formed compound butter log. We'll take our knife, and we're just going to cut 2 little discs. Yeah, I think 2 is fine. Of the compound butter. Put them right on the lamb chop. Go ahead and maybe smear them around a little bit. And then that's ready to eat. Should we dig in?
I would love to.
Okay.
Oh.
So is that now that's
Juices.
that's juicy and that's rested enough, so it should be ready to go. I'm gonna have to get my own.
Yeah. Oh, well, we'll see. Oh.
How is it?
Mmm.
Good,
You-
whereful. Well, there's
Amazing.
plenty. But as I showed you, there's very, very little to it.
I mean, that was what, like 15?
It was a total cooking time. Thank you. A total cooking time of half an hour.
Yeah.
And for anyone that says cooking is complicated and takes a lot of time, we can count the number of ingredients that we've used here, and I think we probably have 10 ingredients.
Yeah.
So when you open a cookbook and you see one of these recipes that has 30
Sounds
ingredients,
overwhelming.
it doesn't always have to be the case. So Enjoy your lamb chops, and
Thank
it's been
you.
so wonderful being here with you
thank
today.
you so much
Thank
for
you very
coming.
much, and bon appetit, San Francisco.
Bon appetit, San Francisco. We'll see you again.